Do your best not to touch these because it's like
It's a little
touchy.
they're touchy.
Very touchy. So we went from not very good audio the last time to maybe too much
extreme
this
audio. Okay, welcome back to another episode of Wide Open and Personal. I might have to take a few coughing breaks and a few sniffle breaks here and there.
The dome flu hit our home.
For like the, I don't know, 4th, 5th year in a row.
Last year we didn't get sick at all.
I did. I got a cold, I remember, but I didn't feel like death. Now, 2 years ago, and then this year,
Not good.
I didn't go to work yesterday. So
Well, I got the stomach bug on Monday, mid-morning it hit me. And thankfully, knock on wood,
don't do that too loud.
sorry. Nobody else in the house has come down with that. Haleigh has come down with fever, body aches, snotty nose, the whole
Cough.
fun, sneezing, that whole good stuff. And knock on wood, we don't come down with that either. So we get it out of here.
Hopefully it just goes away.
Yeah.
People at work today gave me Lysol as a Christmas gift, so that was fun.
But let me ask you something. I noticed that you were interested in the Gateway Dirt Nationals post for December of 2025, so it didn't keep you down long enough to not want to go.
They friend requested me on Facebook, like their personal, I guess, page. I don't even know who runs it. I'm sure it's one of their like media guys. They friend requested me on there, and I was like, hell yeah, I'll accept that.
Are you sure it wasn't a spam account? Because I think on their regular page, you can just like and follow it.
Yeah, but there's always been 2 pages. So like this one had like 74 mutual followers or friends with this page. Anyways, we're completely off topic. This video is going to be a little bit different. I am not the podcastee, however you want to say it, the interviewer. Mom is, and I have no idea what she is going to ask me, and that's a little concerning.
It's a little concerning because I don't know what I'm going to ask either.
She's got a whole page over there right now. Anyways, here's the introduction.
They say I'm young, they say I'm dumb, but what they don't know is where I've been and who I am, all the ways I've grown. Blood and the sweat, tears and regret made me hard as stone. On my own, on my own. Put the work in, yeah, I earned it. It's my destiny.
So, Haleigh,
Yes.
tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm 21. I race a race car part-time. I just recently quit college, which is fun fact. I was in college for a long time with hardly anything to show for it. And honestly, I was burnt out. So I moved back home and I was like, I'm taking the semester off with half intentions to go back in January, this coming January, next month. And I just chose just to leave it for now. And there's always the opportunity where I set myself at a really good standpoint where I can go back if I choose to. And I don't have much more to go if I choose whatever route I choose. But if I don't choose to, I have one degree and almost another. So
Right.
What else you want to know?
Well, tell us a little bit about yourself. Like, I know most people listening know who you are. They know what you do. They know a little bit about Haleigh. But for new listeners coming on, because this podcast is new, a new avenue to get out to people, people that don't know you and don't know who you are, or what you do, or what you're about, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I am 21. I grew up in Farmington, Missouri, and I was an avid sports player my whole life. I started out I think they started me out in soccer first. Is that right? I started in soccer.
In kindergarten.
I like to weave my hands through the net. I think I would have been a good soccer player, but I didn't care for soccer. Soccer was not my forte.
We knew that it wasn't for you when you were the goalie and you would twirl your arms in the net and you got stuck. And then on top of that, you were doing cartwheels and flips and front rolls in the middle of the floor during the game. And we were like, well, this will be a one and done for us.
So, needless to say, they put me in dance. They asked me if I wanted to do dance, and I was like, oh, yeah. So, I enrolled in a local dance studio in which I did acro and like pom.
Cheer.
Just like pom. I don't know what it was called.
Like pommies, but they called it cheer.
It was cheer. I guess actually the first thing that I did was not soccer. It was actually cheerleading.
Yeah.
It was cheerleading. I completely stopped that. So we had a program called Upward. I think it's like multiple states wide. And I did cheerleading for them for like 3 years, 4 years, something like that. It was a long time. Long time. Then they put me in soccer. Didn't work out. So then I went to competition dance, and it started out as just like, I think that first little bit was just like, I go to classes and you take the classes, then you advance in skill. And then they were like, she's actually really good at this. Can she be a part of our competition team? So my parents talked about it and they put me in competition dance. Well, then at some point I started volleyball.
You were 6 or 7.
6.
So first or second grade. I think second grade.
I was 6 though, I think.
Yeah.
Because I was young in my grade. They put me in volleyball, and I absolutely loved volleyball. From the day I started, I remember like, this is my sport. So I did competition, traveling.
Travel.
Ball. I did travel volleyball for a very, very, very long time. Many years. And one day, Dad and I were playing softball outside, so he decided to take me to the batting cages. And there was a local travel team that was there. There was girls a few grades younger than me. I'd never played on a travel softball team. It's hard for me to talk because I can't catch my breath. So he kind of picked me up from the batting cages and was like, we'd like her to be on the travel softball team. Has she ever played softball before? I think I played 1 year of City League. And my parents were like, yeah, we can do that. So at one point I had volleyball, dance, and softball going
At the same time.
all at once. So this was right before Kinley was born. So that opportunity for softball came up. I actually broke my hand somewhere in the middle of all of this. And kind of quit acro and dance. And then I got asked to be a part of 2 softball teams. So I was a part of 2 softball teams and then 2 volleyball teams at the time. So I was a busy child.
We were busy.
And then I
for sure.
did all of that up until I was 17.
Almost 18, but yeah.
Almost 18. I did all of that until I was almost 18 because I graduated when I was 17 and I still could play volleyball in the league that I was in, the travel league, until I was 18.
Right.
Unless you wanted to do like college stuff. And I really wanted to, but COVID kind of screwed all of that up for me. Another story, I guess, for another time. I was really devastated that COVID happened like that.
It not only ruined your senior year and all of the plans you had going, but Kinley was in kindergarten that year, and we loved her teacher. She had the best kindergarten teacher, Mrs. Underwood, and she didn't get to finish her kindergarten year out. They, stopped school. I want to say it was March, wasn't it, when all that happened?
It was like March or April.
And she didn't get to finish out her kindergarten year, so we didn't get to kindergarten graduation, any of that fun
And
stuff.
that was my junior year that happened. So junior year, if anybody's familiar with sports, that's like the year you start really hot and heavy, like scouts start looking for you and start paying attention to you, and you do travel teams and they look for you in travel leagues and all of that good stuff. And I remember we actually got a few letters in the mail from some really good college opportunities, but COVID happened. So it kind of just like nipped all of that in the butt.
Yeah.
Which sucked. And then I started racing at 18. It put me in a modified.
What does life look like for you today?
Oh gosh. What does life look like
So
for
you
me
have
today?
sports, you have racing. What does life look like for Haleigh today? Like as a 21-year-old, what does your life look like right now?
I guess I always, maybe to take a step back, I always struggled with what I would do for my career from a very young age because I was so good at sports, and that's not meant to be like cocky. I did want to go do like volleyball in college and see where that took me. But I always struggled with like what would be the thing that I do for the rest of my life. So I wanted to be a nurse, and then I wanted to be a doctor. Didn't know what kind of doctor. And then my mom went through some health issues, and I figured out that you could be a holistic doctor if you went the chiropractic route. And I loved the chiropractic stuff. So I wanted to do that for a long time.
What made you want to do that, though? I know my health struggles kind of pointed you in that direction, but what was it about the medical field that made you want to go that route? Because instead of the traditional, MD kind of route, like,
I liked that you could naturally heal parts of your body, and I felt like your body was more understood rather than just putting a Band-Aid over a bullet hole per se, rather than just giving you a medicine to cover up your symptoms and let's just deal with it that way. You actually, as a chiropractor or a holistic doctor, you look at your kidney function is doing this, so we need to treat your kidneys for this rather than you have this symptom going on, this medicine will fix it, take this for 6 months and we'll reevaluate it then. You could actually diagnose and treat disorders and symptoms and diseases and find the root cause of them and stop them rather than a traditional doctor just covers them up and waits until it's catastrophic.
the Band-Aid approach.
Catastrophic, and you have to have a major surgery or this organ fails or you end up dying early because we can't figure out X, Y, and Z. So that was really why I saw them help you with your health issues and find answers that normal doctors could not even, they wouldn't even look at for you.
It was a lot of dismissal and a lot of, it's anxiety and, here, take this pill and take that pill. And I didn't take any of those pills,
life.
thankfully. I was smart enough and had enough wits about myself and enough background in the medical field myself to know what kind of road those things would take you down. And I was smart enough to know there was more going on.
And I got to watch that from, I was 15, 14. I got to watch that, and I got to watch how those holistic doctors methodically thought and processed all of these different organisms and organs in your body and what they do and why they do this and why they secrete this hormone. And I got to see really like how the body works. And I remember I was in, I guess that's another thing I should add, I was in biomedical sciences. So in 8th grade, I had to
You had to submit an application.
Yeah, it was like the
to
first,
be accepted.
it was like a job application. We sat down with the instructors 8th grade year to see if we would get in to this program for all 4 years of high school. So basically through this program, you study it's like a pre-med program that my high school offered. That sets you up you take it for college classes starting freshman year, college credit, and you transfer that into your college credits, obviously, when you get into college. But you go through every aspect of the medical field, all 4 years, and you just really learn all the systems in the body and how the body works and how the brain works and just everything about the body. And I was one of, I think, 24 kids out of like 200 that did an interview to get in, which was really crazy, but also really cool.
And you had to have so many things right to be accepted. Your grades, your interview had to be good.
You had to have medical knowledge of some sort.
Right.
You had to answer like a list of questions correct. Or, they had to see that you could think on topics and you could methodically find out aspects of things to to get in.
Right. The coughing. So we've talked about your childhood a little bit as far as the sports go. What did your childhood look like other than you being busy with sports all the time? What did life look like for Haleigh when she was a little girl?
I was the only grandkid, and I had really
For
young
5 years.
For 5 years, I was spoiled, needless to say, by everybody in my family. My parents had me very young, at 18 and 19, and a lot of my friends had older parents. I really didn't, other than sports. I mean, I don't know where you're wanting to get at here.
What did life look like for you? What did you like to do as a child other than sports? Did you have certain things you played with, TV shows you liked? Like your sister loves horses, things like that. Like,
I always loved animals. I can honestly say I don't really remember watching a whole lot of TV. If I did, it was like I woke up early for school and I played one episode of whatever was on Nickelodeon at the time. Just probably like Fairly Odd Parents, or I don't know, something that I can't remember right now.
vacations, camping.
We did a lot of stuff all the time, but a lot of it involved sports. A lot of it involved camping. A lot of it involved being outside and throwing the ball and playing catch. And we had 4-wheelers and
Go-karts, side by sides.
At one point, Mom, Dad, and I had a 4-wheeler of our own, and we just go up and down the street and just ride over and over and over. It really felt like we had a lot more time.
We went on a lot of walks. We would go to St. Joe State
We had
Park and walk for
dogs.
miles. We'd take the dogs.
Yeah,
What's your favorite childhood memory?
that's hard. I hate not knowing the questions because
I said the same thing.
my favorite childhood memory is probably... Oh, man. Can we circle back to that question?
Sure.
I'll think about it as you ask me more.
Sure. Do you have a funny story you like to tell people?
I have a funny story I like to tell people. Not when I'm on the spot.
You said make it where I don't know what they
Well,
are.
I didn't want to, make you ask me questions. I wanted it to be raw, but I don't know.
Funny story and favorite childhood memory, we'll circle back to those.
Okay.
What's the best compliment you've ever received?
The best compliment that I've ever received probably has to be that I can do anything I can put my mind to. And that I'm ambitious. Because those are, a lot of the times I don't believe those things about myself. I always say I'm not in competition with other people. I'm in competition with myself. I want you to win and I want myself to win. And at the end of the day, I'll be happy regardless. But I'm always constantly trying to see if I can do something better for myself. Not better than another person, but the best that I can do it. And a lot of that is because I don't truly believe that I can be better than somebody else. So I'm just trying to do it to the best of my capabilities. So when somebody says that to me, it really does mean a lot.
That's a good one. What's your favorite thing to do when you don't have anything on your plate to do? When you don't have engraving orders to fulfill and you don't have, work to do at your regular job, you don't have social media work or podcasting or YouTube or
There's a lot of things you're naming right now.
any of those things to do. If you don't have anything that you're obligated to, what's something that you like to do?
Listen to music.
Listen to music.
Play music full blast. No matter what kind it is, genre it is, I'll listen to it all. I promise.
Well,
I've
I'll
always
skip
been
to a
like
different
that.
question since you said that. What was the last song you searched up on Spotify?
Oh, I'm glad I left my phone over here. Full disclosure, I don't know if it's rap music or not, so we need to put that out there. Bruno Mars, It Will Rain.
It will. I don't know if I know that one. I bet I do.
If you ever leave me, baby, leave some morphine at my door. It's in, I heard it on a TikTok and I was like,
Looking it up.
what is that song called? And I searched it up. Like Kinley said, just search it up.
Search it up,
Just
Mom.
search it up. I searched it up and I was like, oh yeah, it's called It Will Rain by Bruno Mars. And the album cover is the Twilight movie. And so I just looked it up to see what it was called.
We talked a little bit about your childhood and whatnot, and then you kind of got into what you do now a little bit. What did you want to be? You talked about that you wanted to be a doctor when you got older. When you were a little kid, what did you want to be when you grew up?
I wanted to be a singer. I really wanted to be a singer. I still have those moments where I see like Ella Langley or Megan Maroney or just like the new like young artists that are my age or close to my age that I'm like, man, that could be me. God didn't really bless me with a gift to sing.
You can sing. You can sing.
I don't think
I'm not the mom. I am the mom that tells my kids they can do anything they put their mind to, but I also within reason. So like you can sing. You're a very good singer, beautiful singer, especially along with the radio. But maybe if we had some music lessons, we could have went that avenue. Yeah. But yeah,
I can sing if I really try hard.
Yeah.
It was never something that came to me like
supernatural.
But if I sit there and I try to think about it, I can kind of make some stuff work. Yeah. I would have little concerts in my bedroom, and there's a video of me on Facebook somewhere that you shared within the last couple years. Yes, Chris Cagle. You know why that was too? Dad used to have a Chris Cagle CD, and he had another CD that he just played over and over, and I memorized every word to every song.
Jamie Johnson and
there's a couple.
What's the song? I was so shocked when you came home one day.
Is it the one about
Woolly
the guy
Swamp.
marrying money and he dies and Woolly Swamp?
Yeah. But that's not Kenny Rogers. It's
I can't remember his name.
Charlie Daniels.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you were always listening to these songs with your dad when he would take you to school,
but like Nickelback, and I mean, I was a well-rounded music lover, and I still am.
You get that from me and your dad, and I get that passed down to me from my parents. We all love music. My siblings and I grew up with parents that had great taste in music, but it was the same way. It was all around, everything that was just good. So yeah, you were singing Nelly when you were 2 in the doctor's office. It's getting hot in here. Let's take off all our clothes. And then,
My mom's like, stop singing that right now.
Young mom. But
you were 21 at the time, so
no, I was only 20.
Yeah, about 20 or 21 when I was 3.
But yeah, you had a well-rounded taste when it comes to music, and
I still do.
Thankful for that.
Some days it's like hood rap, some days it's all Christian, and some days it's
somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, somewhere in the middle. I like country. Country will be always my like middle ground there, but I've got some extremes on both ends. So
I was like that at your age too. I'm a little bit more now that I get older, a little less on the explicit side for sure. But
I'm not. Sometimes if I'm having a rough day too, the rap is turning on. Like it's a go-to. But I've always escaped in music. Like when I had things go on, or I was feeling a certain way, or there was something just going on, I would put headphones on, or I had a speaker in my room, and I'd crank the music up, and they'd be like, turn the music down. And that's just, I've always escaped that way.
Yeah.
It's my own like little escape from reality when my mind won't shut off.
I think that's because a lot of the times when you were little and we would be in the car, music was my escape as well. So you kind of piggyback that or learn that off of me. But yeah, Haleigh was always down here in the basement dancing and singing and doing her own thing, like she said, putting on a concert for her non-existent audience.
Still do sometimes.
I'll walk
honestly
downstairs and she will be with her AirPods in, singing and dancing, and she can't hear me coming down the stairs, and I scare the bejesus out of her, and she's like
it's bad sometimes. Like my AirPods fly out of my ears. That happened the other day. I was just dancing.
And I'm like
popped
laughing around the corner, like, oh my God, she's still like she's 10. And she finally turns around dancing and sees me, and AirPod goes flying, and she's screaming like, intruder alert.
And I'm not a fearful person, but that is one thing I've always been afraid of. Like, I wouldn't let them leave the blinds open at night because I was afraid that somebody was going to come up to the window and like be peeking in there. And I'd turn around and be like, like that was always my fear. So when I turned around and she was there the other day, I like freaked out. It was funny. It was funny. You had to be here. I wish I had it on video.
Yeah, I wish I had it on video. So would you say, speaking about all of that, would you say that you would call yourself an extrovert or an introvert?
I'm a very extroverted introvert. I am both ends of the spectrum. So obviously you named off a list of a lot of the things I have to do in a day or a week. So I go from it's not 9 to 5, it's 7 to 4 job, to coming home and doing engraving orders for a business that I started, to editing YouTube videos and podcasts and running not only our social media platform, but now others. And it's great. But when I come home after work and I have all these things to do, I shell up and I come down here and I want music and absolute quiet. No one talk to me. No one else. No one talk to me. I've always been like that, though. I remember in school that if I came home from practice, I get peopled out very easy. And sometimes I can have a lot of people around me for a very long time. And sometimes I'm like, nope, no people today. Can't do it.
But talk about what you do for a living. Your main job now, though, is you see a lot of patients in a day, sometimes up to like 95 patients a day in the office you work in, a very, very busy orthopedic office. So when you're dealing with people all day long and asking them questions and answering questions,
they tell you about their life stories too. And I've always loved to listen to people. So I'll sit in there extra long and talk to them. It becomes a lot, though.
But you're also an empath. So when people tell you their stories, you've always had the gift of people feeling invited in to tell you things. I was like that growing up too. And I know at my jobs in the past, I had a lot of coworkers that confided in me all the time, and we would talk for a long, long time about a lot of deep things. So I kind of had that same, I don't know if you'd call it a gift or not, because kind of it's a gift and a curse to be an empath or an empathetic person. But you can feel what other people are feeling, and it drains you to your core. So whether they're happy or sad or angry or anxious or whatever mood they are in, or whatever trauma or situation they're telling you about, you kind of go through those motions and waves with them. And it's really great to be able to feel those things and feel for people. But it's also great, but it's a lot, and it drains you. And so when you deal with people all day, and then you add empath on top of it, empathetic person, empathy, and your mind is on overdrive all the time about the things and the stories people tell you, and how you can change something for someone, or how you can fix something for someone, or how you can make something better. What's the best thing to say to this person? Is there somebody I know that could help this person with that story they just told me about? Whatever it is, and your mind's on overdrive. By the time you get home from work,
you're exhausted.
You're exhausted mentally and physically, and needing to close the door and be alone is precious.
Yeah. I've always been like that, though. I remember I'd come home from school, and we're just going to use the name Sally. I have a specific story in mind, but Sally would tell me that her parents were fighting all night last night, and her dad was not so nice to her mom, and she was telling me vivid and graphic things, and it was someone I was really close to in the second grade, and she was telling me all of these things. And I remember I came home from school, and I was just like sad, beyond sad, and you couldn't get it out of me. Like, why are you so sad? What's wrong with you? Like, did you have a bad day? Was someone mean to you? All of these things. And I finally ended up telling you, like, my friend told me blah, blah, blah. but I've always been like that. You know, I've always been the friend that people felt like they could come to, and they can. I was always someone that they could confide in, and unless they were going to get hurt or hurt themselves, I wouldn't ever tell anyone. I would just always, you know, kind of take it to the grave and just listen to them and give them the best advice or not any advice at all, and just be that ear for them.
But speaking on that kind of piqued my mind and triggered a few memories. You know, it's funny how when you talk like this, you don't remember a lot of things, but you did have a lot of friends. And I remember you had several guy friends. You said whether they were going to hurt themselves or not, that would get to a place where they were thinking about harming themselves, and they would jokingly say things to you. And we talked about it in the last podcast. You're very close. Me and you were very close, and you tell me everything. There's not really anything you kept from me or didn't tell me about that happened or that you knew about or whatever. I mean, you would come to me and tell me these things that people would tell you. And I remember several stories of multiple friends. Like,
I have two guy friends in particular, and obviously I won't name them. We were probably 16 and 17. I mean, we were like juniors. I was young in my grade. And I remember I was at Dairy Queen, and I got a phone call that this friend of mine too, we had been friends since preschool. So we had a really strong friendship and talked all the time, saw each other in multiple classes a day. And he was always someone I could tell dealt with a lot. And I knew some childhood stories of his where he had some things happen to him and that he had went through. And I was at Dairy Queen one night, and he called me out of the blue. Never called me. I mean, we saw each other at school. We texted a little bit, but he had a girlfriend at the time too. So we hadn't really talked like that through the phone. Called me and told me that he almost hurt himself. And I don't know how many details I can give on here. And I just remember like not knowing what to do because I was the only one he told. And I didn't want to be the person that he told and then that didn't do enough or didn't tell someone if he really needed it. And I wake up the next morning and
he's gone.
No one else knew. I'm the only one that knew. And that didn't just happen with him. That happened with one of my still very close guy best friends. He's doing really well. He's got a lot of good things going for him. But that happened with him one night too. And in the first story, I stayed up with that kid for, I think, until like 4 a.m. on the phone for hours to make sure that he didn't do anything. I just sat there and talked with him and reminded him of all the good things and all the things. But I remember there was like probably 10 minutes where I wasn't on the phone with this kid because I was afraid that he would do something when I wasn't on the phone, where I told my mom, I was like, listen, I don't really tell you a lot of these things. I said, but something really scary happened. You're wondering why I came home late? Because I came home past, I had a very flexible curfew, but I came home past the curfew. And she couldn't get a hold of me. Like, I kept sending her voicemail. I was on my way home, but I didn't want to get off the phone with this kid. And I finally got home, and for like 10 minutes, I just was like, what do I do? This is all the things, this is all the details, really fast ran her through it. And she was like, well, if you think you need to tell somebody, at least tell his parents. Don't tell anybody else. Just at least let his parents know. That way they can make sure he's okay. And that, it was just multiple times stories like that.
Yeah, that happened a few times. I remember it being a few times, and I'm like, why does this keep happening to Haleigh? Why do these people come to Haleigh with this hard information? And
it's a lot to handle.
It's a lot to handle for an adult at my age, at the age of 40. I mean, obviously I wasn't 40 at the time, but at my age of 40, it would be a lot for me if somebody called me right now and said, I'm thinking of harming myself. I mean, obviously I'm better armed and aware of what to say and do in that situation. Now, but to watch your child, who is just a child and learning life and learning their own emotions and their own things, to have somebody tell them something like that. I remember questioning why, but now that you're older and we've gone through some things and we've seen some things happen, I understand now why people felt like you were the kind of person they could tell that to. And I'm grateful and thankful that you were that kind of person for several people in your life.
It's a lot to carry, though.
It really is, because you don't know if you did or said the right thing, and then you worry about
doing the right thing. I still have, like, randomly I'll be sitting at work, and that memory actually came to my mind the other day. Like, I broke down over it. And it's not that I'm burdened by those people telling me those things. I don't want that to come across that way, but there's a lot of just emotions tied to that I like internalized, that I didn't realize, especially over the last few years, like why sometimes maybe I get emotional, or why sometimes I get overly protective, or, you know, this, that, and the other.
Overstimulated. Because you've got a lot of noise chatter going on inside, with all of the things and all the time
in the back of your mind that you don't even, you can't really think of, but they're going on. It's like I think when I said that, I think about the SpongeBob scene where he's like got files and files and files in the back of his brain, and he's like opening file drawers. And I never quite understood that. I always thought SpongeBob is like an older person's show if you go back and watch it as an adult, but as a kid you don't really realize it. But he's like pulling out these file folders and file folders of memories and emotions and all of these things. And that's really how our brains work, is we keep a log of everything. We don't consciously think about it every day, but we subconsciously do. Right.
But I'm very proud of the fact that people feel like they can come to you and confide in you, and it's like you said, it's hard to carry those things sometimes. And the more you know, the more you understand about people, I think. And maybe it'll make sense why Haleigh ticks the way she does when you understand a little bit deeper about the things she goes through and deals with and whatnot.
Are you opening that up?
Sure.
Go ahead and ask the questions.
What do you want me to open it up to?
You know more about it than anybody else. From a very young age, I dealt with intrusive thoughts. So there's probably a lot of people that don't know what intrusive thoughts are, but from 5 years old is the first memory I have of them. It's basically like, what's the common analogy? Like, you're on the street and there's a bus coming by and you're like, I could just jump out in front of that bus right now. And you're like, why did I think about that? Oh, no, you're just being stupid. And you continue to walk on the sidewalk. They can be scarier. They can be not as scary.
They can be silly.
They can be funny. Like, I'm going to just blurt this word out loud and see what it does. And you never blurt the word out loud. They're just thoughts that pop in your brain. But I dealt with kind of the scary ones a lot of the times. And that was another reason that I was so emotional as a child. I never told you about it. I think I would vaguely tell you.
You would tell me little bits and pieces of them, and I wouldn't quite understand, and I wouldn't know what you were trying to tell me because you were little and you didn't know how to tell me. And I remember I kind of brushed them off a lot.
But I remember thinking, like, if I tell my parents how bad these intrusive thoughts are, they're going to, like, put me in a mental hospital.
And you didn't know they were intrusive thoughts back then.
I thought
as an adult, we know what they were called now, but back then you didn't know what they were called. And fun fact, I'd never experienced an intrusive thought in my entire life that I am cognitively aware of until after I had my hysterectomy in 2020, late 2020, about 8 months into 2021, my hormones finally shifted big time, threw me into full-blown menopause really quickly.
For everybody wondering, she's only 40.
I'm only 40. So I was 35 at the time, 35, 36, somewhere like that. Way too young.
I still had never told you at this point just how bad what I found out when I was probably like 14 what intrusive thoughts were. Like, I did my own research because I like had a phone at that age, and I like started looking stuff up, which is probably not what you should do. There's a lot of stuff out there that you can get confused with, but I knew that they were intrusive thoughts from like biomed and stuff like that, and studying the brain and all of your neuro pathways and all of that good stuff. I kind of had figured that out. So when these health issues happened, I'm like, 17 at the time or so, when all of these things are happening.
No, you were 15 when it started, because
that's true.
You had your permit, and at that point I couldn't drive a whole lot, and you just let you take off. You were driving me everywhere.
Your intrusive thoughts didn't start then, though.
Oh no, I thought you meant other stuff. But yeah.
Your intrusive thoughts probably started when I was like 18.
Yeah. And I remember as a 30 some odd year old woman, completely terrified and beside myself, panicked to the max. Like, what is going on with my brain? What is happening to me? What is this? I've never experienced it. If you can imagine, if you don't know what an intrusive thought is, if you can imagine thinking something, this is the best way that it was put to me, and this is one of the best ways to cope with it or deal with it when you have them, is realizing and remembering that an intrusive thought is the exact opposite of the way you think, believe, and feel.
What you would do,
what you would feel, what you would think, how you would behave, how you would react. An intrusive thought is basically the exact opposite of that. And it can get scary sometimes. It
can get very scary.
Feels like your brain is at war with itself. And
they get constant too. There's like no stop to them. So once you have one, you're going to have another, and then you have another, because why did I think like that? And
well, it's not like that for everybody. For people like you and I, that have a brain that
processes
things the way we do, but gets hooked onto the wanting to know a why behind something. If you focus on the why did I have that? Why did that happen? What does it mean? When you focus on that, then they start snowballing.
You get what's in a feedback loop.
Yeah.
In your brain, and your neural pathways start forming together, and they fuse together. And so then it's even harder to dig out of that loop, because you can't start another one, because if you start another one, it's likely going to be another intrusive thought, and then why did I have that? And then it's a cycle that does not stop.
Right.
Whereas some people, like you said, they have these scary intrusive thoughts every few months, every few weeks, every 3 days. Or
they even have them. They have them regularly, but they aren't reactive to them or taken aback by them, so they just dismiss them and move on with their day, which is what you're supposed to do, because our brains, we can't control our thoughts. Thoughts are just like bubbles that pop into your brain, no matter what they are. Yes, you can consciously think about something if that's what you're choosing to think about, but like thoughts themselves just pop into our brain at
they
random.
Pop in and out.
So when you get them like that, you can't control them. So trying to control them is what makes them worse.
And we both have OCD.
A little bit of OCD with that. I mean, we're kind of making ourselves sound a little out there, but I think this is something that needs to be talked about more.
That's why I brought it up.
Because it's not something, when it happened to me, like Haleigh said, I didn't realize the extent to which my child dealt with this at a young age, and it broke my heart into 1,000,010 pieces when I realized that she dealt with something that hard from such a young age, and I didn't fully know about it, and I didn't fully have the tools or the capability to help her with that. And I remember when I was really in the thick of it happening to me at first, thinking, thank you, God, that I did not deal with this as a child. And thank you, God, that I did not deal with this when my children were very small. This is also something that people like postpartum depression deal with. I didn't deal with anything like that.
They don't know how to talk about it.
Right. And I didn't deal with anything like that, thank God. But then it left me questioning, God, why am I at this age, if you've never allowed me to experience an intrusive thought, up until this point? Why am I experiencing it now? And now it all makes sense. And now I understand it on a much bigger level. Obviously I learned how deep it was for you. And I've met and learned of other people in our lives. We also had a person come into your life a couple years ago that dealt with it, that didn't tell anybody about it. And
I'll kind of preface that and say that it was something I felt led to tell this person about that I dealt with. And I thought, this person's going to think I'm crazy. Which is kind of the thought that you have when you tell anybody about intrusive thoughts, which, side note, there's a video of Luke Combs talking about how he has intrusive thoughts, and he explains it better than I've
so good. He explains it so good on that podcast. And I remember, was that a Joe Rogan podcast?
We were in Florida when this, yes.
But it was a Joe Rogan, right?
Yeah. This is why I ended up telling this person about me having intrusive thoughts.
But
to which this person said, oh, that's what those are? I have those too, but I've just never told anybody. And we like bonded over that. And it was awesome to talk about that with somebody that wasn't you.
Right.
But Luke Combs explained it so perfectly. If you have the time, I'll link it in the description because it's a great video. If you also deal with intrusive thoughts, you should watch the video.
It was a great podcast. I remember I found it and sent it to you. And I was like, I've never heard somebody explain this as well as he did in this podcast. And it makes you feel like, you're not crazy, but when you're dealing with it, sometimes you're like, oh my God, I'm going crazy. The best thing somebody ever said to me is a crazy person doesn't know they're going crazy. So if you're afraid you're going crazy, you're probably not going crazy.
There's probably somebody that's going to comment on this video, no, you and your mom are crazy.
We're
but
crazy.
Then there's probably like 5 people that are going to be like,
oh my God, I deal with that.
I deal with that. And I didn't know that's what that was called. And thank you so much. I'm 42 and I never knew about that, so that's kind of what I want to do with this podcast. I want to open all those things up.
Talk about the hard things that people push behind them and put in the closet and act like they don't deal with because they think they're going to be judged or that something is wrong with them when there's not something wrong with them, that we all are human and we all deal with these things, and it's whether or not we talk about them. And if there's something that I've learned over the past several years is mental health is huge, and it's something that needs to be talked about, and it's something that needs to be shared with others, so people don't feel alone.
And another thing is social media is romanticized and
highlight reel.
I am so I like just as much as anybody else and the next person, like seeing all the happy things and all of the wins that people have in their life, the small wins, the large wins, all of that good stuff. But with that being said, for a long time, I think social media is actually starting this past year and a half. I've seen more hard videos come out. But previous to that, it was just it kind of made you envious of other people's lives. And I'm dealing with all these things and their life looks so perfect. And I actually know a few people that their life was far from perfect, but they only showed the perfect things. And I'm like, why don't you at least just show a little bit of the heart, let people relate to you, because these people are sitting behind these screens. I've sat behind this screen and I've thought their life is so perfect. Mine is horrible, and
we all do that to an extent.
Right. And that's not, I don't want us to seem like that. I want us to be relatable and real. And I can honestly say that there's never been a point in any of our social media that we have ever lied or not shown who we truly are. And this podcast is a lot of the reason I wanted to start this podcast, because I wanted to open up more. I wanted to show people more. I've always wanted to share my story and who I am.
And learn about other people and their struggles and the things they've overcome. Because another thing I've learned in my short but long life is that we are always learning. And if you don't get up every day and think to yourself, there's something I can learn today, whether it's a new lesson about life or a lesson about love or whatever it is, learning. There's always a better way or a more efficient way to do something. Somebody else is smarter. Somebody else is wiser. Somebody else is stronger.
To think so.
There's always somebody that can do it better, and collaborate with those people. If you, like you said earlier, you're not in competition with yourself or with others, you're only in competition with yourself. And that's the way I like to look at life. I'm trying to be better today than I was yesterday, than I was 2 hours ago. All the time, that's on my mind. And I fall short a lot. We all do. But yeah, collaborate with the people that want to grow and learn, because we don't know it all.
You get so much further by partnering up with people who have a like-minded mindset, or maybe you don't agree with all of the things that they do or they say.
Right.
But you agree with most of it or some of it. If you guys just get on the same page and you collaborate and you help each other, you're helping yourself and them in the long run.
Right.
And I bet you'll be twice, if not 3 times or quadruple
more successful
than you are by yourself or with the community that you have around you.
Right.
Already.
Right.
Anyways.
So do you think that that's the biggest challenge that you've had in your life is intrusive thoughts? Or what would you say the biggest challenge Haleigh Gross has had from a small age until now? The biggest challenge you've had to overcome. We talked about mine in the first podcast being fear. I was always so fearful from a young age, just of everything, just fearful. What's your challenge?
My challenge is probably that. And I'm going to say, not only overcoming the intrusive thoughts and the anxiety that came from that, because I'm a very anxious person from that and from a lot of other things. But trying to figure out what God wants me to do with it.
I think that was the biggest thing for me too. Like, when I said earlier, God, why am I going through this at this age? Why are you allowing me to experience this now? What do you want me to do with it? Where do you want me to go with it? And what am I supposed to do with it for others?
Yeah.
And that's where I'm at.
Why did you have me go through this? And God was really the only, because like we said, my parents didn't know at the time, like the extent of things. I kind of vaguely on purpose didn't tell them a lot because I didn't want them to think I was crazy. They didn't understand it because they had never gone through it. And maybe had they gone through it and they reacted a little different, I would have told them more from a younger age. But just really, I leaned into God. Like I remember just praying to God when the intrusive thoughts would happen. But as I got older, I remember asking God, like, why'd you just allow me to have that thought? What do you want me to do with this thought? And then Mom had them. And then, not really my place, but Kinley kind of has had some. And she came to us out of the blue and crying, like, what are these? And my brain's doing this and I can't stop thinking about this. And like, God, why have you allowed us? I know it's not just us, but why have you allowed us to go through this? And what am I supposed to do with this? I've always had a dream and a goal to be a doctor, but I've never fully latched on to it. And like all of these things. And I still don't know exactly where he's going to take me with it, but I have a good feeling that it's starting here.
I kind of have a feeling about that too. And I remember you and I, when I was really in the thick of it and sick, and, I was looking at brain retraining stuff for health reasons to overcome POTS and the nervous system stuff and whatnot. There's a whole world out there of neural retraining, and Haleigh kind of touched on it earlier with, you've got these synapses in your brain and these neural pathways that, link together and connect and become strong and whatnot. And you can rewire those things. And I remember thinking to myself, there's a whole lot more going on behind the scenes we can't see yet that God's doing here. And I think that we have to do something with the brain, Haleigh. I think that there's something there for you and I in some way, shape, or form. And I still think that today. But kind of touching on that too, you kind of triggered my memory again with, the spiritual side of things. From a very young age, we talked about you being empathetic and being a very strong empath. We've now talked about the intrusive thoughts. From a very small age, I remember you would say the most random things that would make you go, how does she know that? I remember, and I know my mom remembers vividly when my grandma...
She still cries about it today.
When my grandma, Hunt, passed away, my mom was having a really hard time. And for those that don't know, my mom runs a daycare in her home. She has for almost 40 years, taking care of so many kids you couldn't even count throughout her life. But I got blessed to have a mom that had that as her career. I did not have to pay for childcare.
Which is very nice.
It was very nice. I didn't have to worry about where my children were when I was at work. My parents, my mom kept them. And when Haleigh was 1.5, 2, I think you were almost 2.
I think I was closer.
She passed away.
2.
You were almost 2. You were 2. My mom was having a really rough day, crying, upset about, just missing her mom not very long after she had passed away. And my mom was praying to God, give me a sign, God, that my mom's okay, and that, just give me a sign. And randomly,
I went to the end of the hallway.
But I don't know if it was that same day or if it was the next day. But you come up to her and you said, Mima, what's August 4th? And you stopped her dead in her tracks. And she said, what did you say? And she said, you said, what's August 4th? And mind you, she's 2, just turned 2 or close to 2. And she shouldn't have really known what dates even were.
No.
And my mom said, that's my mom's birthday. And she broke down into a puddle of tears and said, that's my sign. God, that's my sign. And Haleigh would do that a lot. She would know
I was
things.
3, or I was 4 or 5. And Mima was having another rough day because that was, like year 2 or so.
Might have been after her dad passed away because he passed away 2 years later.
It might have been 2. And I came home from school one day. I would go there after school.
After preschool.
My grandpa worked at the church across from the school, and he would pick me up after school was over, preschool or kindergarten, whichever year it was. And I was younger in my grade, so in kindergarten I was really 4.
No, you can.
Was I actually? I think I was 4.
In kindergarten, you can't. You have to be 5.
Okay. Yeah, that's true. I had just turned 5.
You were 3 and 4 when you went to preschool, and you were 5 in kindergarten.
Anyways, I would go there after school, and I went there one day, and I was a little older, so I can remember this one. And I remember she was crying. I could tell, Mima, what's wrong with you? What's wrong? And I said, Mima, Grandma doesn't want you to be sad anymore. And she was like, what? And she shelled up again and ended up in a puddle of tears. And but there was multiple times when I'd do that with Mom and Dad too.
Just things that, a child that things she shouldn't know or wouldn't know, she would know. And it makes sense to me now and I understand it now. But at the time it was like, what is going on? Recently
we had someone pass away in our family, and I don't like to go to funerals because I'm so empathetic. I don't like to be around sad people, even though sometimes I'm the sad person because of everything. But went to this funeral, and the preacher was praying the first prayer of the service, and I just felt like I just opened up, which is the weirdest thing to describe, and I had a hard time describing it to her, but I felt like I needed to hug this person's wife, and blue hat came into my mind, and I'm like, blue hat.
We're in the middle of this. It was my Uncle Jerry who I looked up to big time, and it was my mom's sister's husband, so my uncle by marriage, but he was an amazing uncle when I was little and growing up, and so many people loved and adored that man. I think they said there was over 600 people came through the doors of that funeral home just for visitation. I mean, he was the epitome of a selfless, giving, hardworking man, and he would have given anybody the shirt off his back.
His wife is a absolute prayer warrior.
She
to know them is
me,
to love them.
Yeah, and she taught me a lot just from me seeing it from a distance and seeing it when I was around, of what it was like to have rock solid faith when the ground was shaky. And throughout my life, I've always remembered her when times were hard and when I had to go to prayer, and how she would go in her room at night for hours and hours and pray. I mean, that woman still to this day goes in her room at night and prays for hours for everybody she knows and everybody she loves and people she doesn't even know. And that to me is so amazing that somebody thinks so much of others and the power of prayer to do that for you. That's probably one of the biggest gifts and the best things we can do for each other and for other people. And that means a lot to me. So for Haleigh to have this moment in his
I texted
funeral,
her after the prayer ended.
she texted me though. It just said blue hat. And I'm like,
She's like, dad is in between her and I. So I'm right here by my other aunts, her sisters, and dad is beside me. And then mom is over there and my grandma and my grandpa are on the other side of my mom. So we're all in this, pew, and I keep hearing blue hat. And I'm like, maybe that's means something to somebody. I don't know. So I just texted my mom real quick, blue hat. No explanation at all because we're in this funeral.
and we know each other well enough that I'm like, okay, I need to remember this for some reason.
Yeah, for some
Blue
reason,
hat.
whatever, blue hat. So I get up there and Glenda and Jerry's daughter is, they're crying and we're hugging and you walk by and you hug everybody in the family and you walk out of the funeral home and you go to is it funeral procession?
Yeah.
I kind of mentioned to Zenith, I said, blue hat. I said, he was praying. I said, I don't know what it means. I said, but blue hat. And she was like, I don't know, I'll think about it. And Glenda said, I got to ask God about it. That was the first thing she said. She said, I'll ask God about it.
I got to talk to God about it.
And then we went to the funeral where the burial site. And then there was a lunch. It was kind of like a dinner lunch. Funeral dinner that we went to, and we talked about it again, and we were getting ready to leave, and we're still kind of talking about how maybe the blue hat means something, maybe it doesn't, I don't know. But Aseneth, Jerry and Glenda's daughter, comes up to me and she grabs me almost as tight as she can, and she said, thank you. She said, that blue hat, I had to ask. She said, so I asked Drake, her son Drake,
who was with my Uncle Jerry, which is his grandpa, during his logging accident when he was killed.
He was with him and he saw it, and he was the one that performed CPR on Jerry in the woods. And unfortunately, Jerry was not able to be brought back to life, but his grandson was there, and from what we understand, did a very good job at performing CPR and trying to get Jerry back to life. She said, I asked Drake about it. And Drake said, Jerry was very weird about people who drove his trucks. Nobody would drive his trucks.
But he was also, another thing she told you before that was that, or Glenda maybe told you, that he was very particular about his hats.
Glenda had said before that, Jerry was very particular about his hats. And so I was like, okay. And that was when she kind of told me that she needed to talk to God about it, ask God about it. And anyways, Aseneth was talking to me and asked Drake, and Drake had said he was weird about letting people drive his truck, but obviously since Jerry had gotten killed that day, someone had to drive Jerry's truck back. So the hat that was in Jerry's truck was a blue hat. And not only did Drake drive that truck back to their house that night, but he also drove it to the funeral. He felt like he needed to drive it to the funeral the next day. We haven't heard anything else about the blue hat, but that was enough for me to be like, wow. Like, I had no idea.
And for reference, Haleigh was not close to my Uncle Jerry in any way. As you grow older and you have a family of your own and you grow up, and then my grandparents have since passed away since Haleigh was small at 2 and 4. When the grandparents pass away, the individual families kind of have their own Christmases and Thanksgivings and Easters and all of those things. So she did not get to grow up going to their house like I did.
I did a few times, but not a lot.
Not to where you remember it. So for you to know something like that is out of the blue.
Crazy.
You wouldn't know that because you didn't know him on a personal level. And I didn't even get to know him on a personal level the last several years of his life because, like I said, we grow up and we have our own families and life is busy. But I will always cherish the memories of him as a child. He was great.
Yeah. He was good.
So we got that whole story out because we were talking about, the things that Haleigh knows sometimes that are not from Haleigh. Obviously, those are spiritual things. I don't want anybody to get that confused with her being psychic because there's no psychic capabilities here. It's nothing like that.
I don't hold the Bible and ask God to open the page up and direct my hands and all of that stuff. I don't do that.
Yeah.
But
the spiritual world is real.
It is.
It's very, very real.
The last few years of my life has also proven that to me in more ways than one, that we won't really open up. A lot of things that I knew ahead of time that happened in big ways. And it happened in exact ways that I knew were going to happen, which is even really crazy to say. It's hard for me to not give details, but be vague at the same time. But a lot of just I don't know. Just the people that have been in my life the last couple of years. There were a lot of God moments with that as well.
Yeah.
What other questions you got?
I have a long list of questions, but I don't.
You can
we've been
rapid
all
fire
around the world pretty much.
That's what people like, though. They like to know more about me. It's okay.
If money wasn't a factor, what would you do with your time?
I'd race all the time now.
All the time?
That's my answer now.
Full-time race car driver.
Full-time race car driver. You'd see me at the track near you.
What's your biggest pet peeve?
My biggest pet peeve? Oh, gosh. You know me better than I do. I'm sure I can't think of it right
Passive-aggressive
now.
people.
God, I can't stand that. If you've got a problem with me, come to me and tell me. I've dealt with this at a job of mine. I've dealt with this with people in my life. I've dealt with this in multiple occasions and multiple instances within the last couple years, within the last 10 years, my whole life. If you've got a problem with somebody, just go to them and tell them you've got the problem with them.
Fix it.
Fix the problem.
Don't talk about it behind their back. Don't go in a group text message and tell people about it. Don't.
Just tell them.
Just say, hey.
They might not even know it's a problem.
You're being up today.
That's how our
That's
relationship
how
works. She called me a mean name the other morning because
she was being one.
I was kind of being a mean name. And I called her a mean name back, and we fell asleep, and we were fine when we woke up.
when we woke up. Like, that's life,
I kind of think that that's how everything needs to work. All relationships, friendships, parental relationships when you get a little older.
Yeah, although obviously my 10-year-old better not ever do that.
No, but we've always kind of done that because we had a different kind of almost like a friend relationship. Sister relationship growing up. We could MF each other one moment and love each other with all we had the next.
But I say that's a great quality because your dad and I can be the same way. And that's a learned behavior.
You just gotta let that go.
You got to let that stuff go. Like, me and him can be angry. We don't have big blow ups and fights anymore, thank God. But when you're young,
something that you went through though.
When you're young, you do, and you get, that can happen. But you learn over time and with age and wisdom, to let that stuff go. But if you're getting on each other's nerves and,
I don't like you right now. Well, I don't like you either. Bye.
Screw you. And then 10 minutes later, you're hugging and kissing. Like, it doesn't make us weird. That makes us normal and stronger. And able to overcome those stupid things that some people will just harbor and hold on to for hours.
Is too short.
Hours and hours. Just hold on to that
days,
stuff.
Years, weeks. Oh my gosh. I can't. I had issues with, I can say this now because the lady and we fixed it. I had issues with a lady at work, And it was part her problem, part mine, because after so long, I just started giving it back to her. That's how I am. If you're going to give it to me, I'm giving it back
Let's
to you.
go back and talk about what she would do. She would be one of those people that would be like, somebody put blah, blah, blah in the computer wrong.
And I'd be like,
In front of a room full of people.
Me.
And instead of being like, and obviously if you've ever worked in the medical field, you know, everything is time stamped and dated. Time stamped and name stamped. So whoever did whatever in the computer has your
knew.
name on it. You know who did it. So why would you not just come to that person and be like, hey, look, this is how we're supposed to do this, or this goes
know
in
you're
this
new
way. Yeah, I know you're new here. You know, instead of just being a total, you know, that
I hope
word.
she doesn't watch this podcast.
You know, come to that person and say, look, that's how I've always operated. I remember when I worked at the surgery center and I worked the front desk, but I also ran the AR department. Like, I had to work and knew how everything worked. If
we do things this way.
Yeah, if this is how something is done and somebody's not doing it right, you go kindly to them and you say, hey, this is, I know that you're doing this way, and maybe somebody showed you it that way, but this is really how it's supposed to be done. It's not a big deal, but going forward, let's do this. Not somebody.
In front of the boss. She did it in front of the boss, and I came home madder than hell. And I'm sorry for cussing, but
you had somebody else in your life in the past few years that was like that.
Oh my gosh, I did. Yeah, that's another story. I'm a very reactive person, and I don't deal with that very well. So when you do that to me, I'm sitting there like, why didn't you just come to me
in an adult-like manner
and tell me that I'm doing this wrong and you would like me to do it this way, or this way?
Or you're doing something that bothers you. You know,
Yeah, if I'm bothering you, I probably don't know it. Like, you and I have such a close relationship that you tell me when I'm doing something that bothers you. Dad tells me when I'm doing something that bothers him. I tell you when you guys are doing something that bothers me.
And anyone else in our lives, or in my life, in our family, we all kind of operate that way.
We're all open books. Like,
Yeah.
I can honestly say there's really not anything that our whole family doesn't know. Our whole family knows a lot, like everything. Maybe not every single detail, but like the majority of things. Like, we're not a secretive family as us four, but also as a whole. Like, we're just not.
Moms, dads, grandmas, grandpas, aunts, uncles, cousins,
My aunts
friends.
and uncles know everything about my life. And it's just always been that way. I know a lot about their lives too. Like, so these people, I'm a very reactive person because I don't treat people that way. So just the moral of the story is, if you've got something to say about me, I'm going to text Dad to turn the TV down.
Yeah, I can hear it in my ears.
I can hear the TV in my ears. I would much rather someone come to me and say, I'm having this problem, or I'm kind of aggravated by you doing this. You know, can we maybe fix this? Like, how can we fix this? And let's fix it. Because I'm a
fixer.
I'm a fixer. Like, I want to fix everything. And I might not always be good or do it right on the first try, but I'm going to fix it.
So that answers the question on your biggest pet peeve. Do you have an embarrassing memory?
You asked me this.
Oh, yeah, I did. You were supposed to think about it.
I'm supposed to think about it, but you've had me down so many rabbit holes. Yes, actually, I do. So I was sick with the stomach bug.
Where's this going?
This is the most embarrassing. I think I was at a volleyball. It was at CC's.
Oh, it's not what I thought.
No, I was sick with the stomach bug. And I was with for some reason, my mom, she thought I was going to go to like a personal story with the toilet. No, my best friend at the time and her mom, still love these people. They're great. She's getting married soon. A lot of my friends are getting married soon, which is, yeah. Anyways, I was going to bring up something else with that, but never mind. That's another rabbit hole.
Burner.
It's another rabbit hole we can't go down. Oh my goodness. So
Embarrassing story.
embarrassing story, right? We were at CC's Pizza, and I think it was at a volleyball. For some reason, I wasn't at school that day. I think we didn't have school that day. And I kept telling my grandma my stomach hurt. So I took a nap the whole day. Well, my best friend's mom picked me up from my grandparents and took me to CC's Pizza, to which I think my parents were going to meet me at later. And it was like awards and like gifts and stuff like that. It was like a Christmas party or something. I don't remember. I projectile like vomited everywhere. Like I still to this day, I have not thrown up a lot. So like when I throw up, I don't know what to do. Like
No, I remember when you were 15, it was the first time you had the stomach bug in
Since I was, like,
years.
5.
Since you were little bitty. And I remember you were standing in the middle of the kitchen, and I walk in the room and you're like all over my kitchen floor, and I'm like, what in the world just happened? You're like, I didn't know.
I didn't.
I was like, what? My belly hurt. I thought I was hungry, and I came in here to get something to eat.
But people have to understand that if you haven't thrown up a lot in your life, you do kind of feel a little hungry when you have to throw up, because everything's like moving out of your stomach.
And I was so mad. I'm like, you're 15 and you didn't go to the trash can?
I ruined my best friend's mom's shoes. Whoa, Nelly. We're too much alike. Okay.
Back to
Anyways,
your regularly scheduled programming.
the batteries went dead.
Oops.
I wanted to test out the batteries. And honestly, that's why you and I are doing the first 2 podcasts. We're testing out equipment, and we're
Learning how to do this.
learning how to do it, but making sure we don't fail when I have somebody really awesome in front of me.
I'm not awesome.
She is awesome, but you know what I mean.
What were we talking about?
How I projectile vomited on my best friend's shoe.
I think we are transitioning into something else, though.
I don't know. I don't remember. Play it
That
back.
was your most
Play it back.
most embarrassing thing. So we got that out of the way. We already asked you what the last song you searched for on Spotify was. Talked about your big challenge
Did you
in life.
Google these questions? Yes, she did.
Possibly.
Oh, it was the look that's all I needed.
Okay. Who is the most influential person you would say in your life? And how did or do they impact you? Someone you look up to or strive to be like or live life like. And it doesn't have to be someone in your family. It can be anybody in the whole world.
I'm going to pause and say I'm sorry if anybody can hear me breathing, sniffling. Yeah.
Yeah.
We are not trying to make ASMR sick videos. Mom doesn't even know what ASMR
No,
is.
she said, Mom, you can do ASMR sounds on this. I'm like, what the hell is ASMR? And she's like, oh my God.
I was like, Mom, how do you not know what ASMR is?
Because I'm 40.
You have TikTok.
Not for that reason.
I don't either, but sometimes they pop up and it's like somebody eating a cucumber.
I've never seen that on my TikTok.
I swear, sometimes somebody's eating like a cucumber in a microphone.
Listen, if someone's eating a cucumber in a microphone on my TikTok, that will never happen
So what's
again.
your pet peeve?
My biggest pet peeve is people that chew with their mouth open.
Gary and Kinley.
Gary and Kinley. Or chew on their gum. Oh my God, the guy at Gateway Dirt Nationals, one row and a few seats down behind. I mean, his mouth could have reached the ceiling. He was opening it so big to chew his gum. I'm like, that must be some good shit.
So some of my exes, like a few of them, have always wondered how I can be talking to them if we're at a restaurant and hear somebody doing something at another booth behind me. I get it from you, and it's because the things that annoy me and bother me, I have like 9 different tabs open in my brain at all times, and they're all going all at once.
Going to the movie theater and people eating popcorn is not fun.
Not for Amanda. The most influential person in my life and that I look up to.
Or strive to live like or be like. I know we talked about my Uncle Jerry and how he lived his life and the qualities of life he portrayed. Touching on that a little bit again, I see and was reminded so much.
Can I stop you there before you say your answer? I'm going to say my dad, because you were getting ready to say that you see a lot of the qualities in Jerry, or in my dad, that you knew of Jerry.
Right.
My dad he is the most giving person I have, and I think I will ever meet. He's listening up there. He's going to get a big head after this. He's probably going to cry. Oh my God.
He doesn't cry. Never.
Yes, he does. Don't lie to the people. He's a baby sometimes.
I love it.
Oh, anyways. Aren't you glad I started this?
Yes.
Because we can laugh like this and then everybody can see.
Yeah.
He truly is the most selfless person ever. Even if something happens directed towards him, he's still trying to make it not about him. Like he's still giving to that person that hurt him intentionally over and over and over and over. And I strive to be like that every day. Now, obviously I have some parts of me that aren't like that. Majority, I would say, are, but I fight with like going back and forth, like, no,
Yeah.
This person did this to me. Screw them. Like, no. And then he comes out of me, because obviously I'm half him. And, it just like overwhelms me. And I'm like, okay, maybe they didn't mean it like that.
That's where I was going with that. Your dad is very giving, and not for any reason other than that's just who he is. He's always been like that from a very young age, from what I understand, but I've known him for almost 25 years now. And that has always been, who he is. I've always been a very, very giving person too, but am.
She's got the what for it.
I've got the what for in me, and that almost came out this weekend, but, be a lot of people very glad and thankful that side of Amanda did not come back to life. Got really close though.
Moving on.
I've always been a very giving person too, and I always want to help others succeed and help them in any way that I can. But I've always been the kind of giver that I give until you've quote unquote shit on me enough times. I'm not going to continue to give to you. Gary
Still gives, and he reminds me so much of my Uncle Jerry. There's no stop to his giving.
That's just his way of life, and there's no ulterior motive behind it. There's no ever. His brain doesn't work like that.
I've never known a moment where he's had an ulterior motive with anything. Me, you, anybody else. There's not been.
He doesn't see the bad in anybody, and sometimes that's a bad thing, because he does not get taken advantage of, because it's really hard to take advantage of Gary. But he's kind of blind to disrespectful people or fake people sometimes. He's unaware of those cues, because he only sees the good. He doesn't see.
He chooses to only see the good too, and we were reminded of that when we bring up something that we see, and he's like, "You pay attention to that too much. Like, I only see this," and we're like, "What? Like, it was written and painted in like beautiful rainbow colors. Like, how did you not see that?"
And then later on, he'll have an epiphany, and he's like, "Well, yeah, I guess I probably should have seen that." But I love that he doesn't see it. And I'm grateful and thankful that he doesn't. And it reminds me and teaches me and shows me every day to strive to be like that. And I'm glad that that's your answer, because God matched us up perfectly, because he has taught me a lot in that aspect of life, that, it's just give and look for the good. Don't look for the bad, and don't. What are you doing?
You guys ever like bought something on Amazon?
She just cut me off. If you know Haleigh, she's good at that. That's like a Temu find,
She thought it was
everybody
this big.
starts bashing Temu.
I'm bashing Amazon for this.
She didn't read the dimensions right.
No, I really thought this was bigger than this, but you guys just have to look at my tiny microphone.
We'll have to get a bigger one. But anyway, so you're the person you look up to the most and strive to be the most like is your father.
Yes.
Love it. Me too.
Love it. Praise hands.
Me too. What do people misunderstand about Haleigh the most?
Oh, like, what do people misunderstand about me the most? I do not think I'm always right. And you do.
Could have fooled me.
I really don't. You know that I don't.
I know.
Honestly, maybe I need to say this way. I have a lot of anxiety about a lot of different things. And my anxiety is because I care for things so much that I don't want to be able to see something come in and ruin those things, or something happen to kind of take those things, which is a good and a bad quality. But I wish people knew that it's not meant out of ill will, because I have the kind of anxiety that needs reassurance in other people. I've always been like that with her. It's just because I genuinely care so much.
You care deeply. You want to say the right thing. You want to do the right thing. You want to be the right thing. You
I want to be the best person for whoever. You know,
You're worried that you're not all the time. So your anxiety makes you believe that you're not, even though you know in the back of your mind you are, or whatever. It just means that you love really hard.
I love
you care.
I love and care and do everything extremely hard. Extremely, extremely hard. Which makes it harder for me and other people.
I can hear the TV again.
I know. Yeah, listen, I'm going to screenshot it and put it on the screen. He sent me a flipping off gift. I said, please turn the TV down. Or actually, I didn't say please. I said, turn the TV down.
Maybe you should have used please.
What's that guy's name?
Will Smith.
Will Smith is just flipping the bird. Maybe I won't put that on the screen, but just know he sent me a
She
gift.
just said that you were the person she looked up to.
Then he flipped me off. But if that doesn't show you how our relationship is, it should.
I mean, life's too
Short.
to be so serious.
Don't be so serious.
Don't be so
take the
serious.
fun.
Don't be a fun sucker.
Don't take the fun sucker.
So you have a little sister. We've touched on that a little bit. For those that don't know,
this is like 2.5 hours.
that's all right. You can cut it down.
I probably won't. I probably just let them watch it. Oh,
So you have a little sister. We talked about her a little bit. For those that don't know, what's her name? How old is she? And how has her coming into your life at the age of almost 11 changed your life for you?
oh gosh. Her name is Kinley. She is 10 years old and a ball of absolute sass. Relentless as all get up. I was going to say as hell, but all get up. And
You got a bleeper on that thing? Because I've said a few curse words.
yeah, I got a bleeper.
Okay.
I got it. Fortunate enough, I'm the editor of this show, so we're good. I always wanted a sibling, and I always wanted a sister. But I was almost 11 when they had Kinley, and I never thought at that point I was getting a sister, because people usually have kids like within a few years, 4 years, 5 years, somewhere in there, not almost 11. So when she came, it was like an utter shock. And I thought that my sister and I would get along a whole lot more than we do. The big age gap really is not all it's...
No, she was always the annoying little sister for you.
Because I was at that teenage awkward year where I was figuring out myself and she was just annoying, But we've also had a lot of really sweet moments together. And earlier, she got mad at me in the truck because I told her not to do something that she shouldn't have been doing. And she just randomly, she was quiet for 2 minutes and she said, sorry.
She's really been very,
She's been calling herself back. Like, she's been apologizing for everything that she does wrong, which is good. I'm glad to see that in her from such a young age. But it was funny because she like took 2 minutes of silence and was like, "Sorry, Haleigh." She was silent again. And I said, "It's okay, Kinley." She said, "Love you."
She's a work in progress like all of us.
I was like, "Love you too, Kinley."
So speaking about how she's like that and how much sass she has and how kind she can be, what is, if you could say, the most awesome quality about Kinley, and I know what it is for me, that you see her do all the time that is just amazing and is kind of like your dad, reminding us to always look for the good and to always give and think of others before ourselves. What is the thing that Kinley does all the time that is kind of along those lines?
Well, from like 3 years old, she started holding the door open for everyone and their mother.
And what
to
else?
the point we had to like pull her away from, I'm getting there. We had to pull her away from the door. Like, "Kinley, come on, babe. Like, you've held the door
For
long
like
enough.
75 people.
Let's go. Like, we're hungry. Come
She'll
on."
be the car at on the road that lets all the people out and everybody's honking the horn
She
behind
will,
her.
and bless her heart, she's the one that I'm
She'll
like,
be smiling.
like, learn how to drive. Like, she's gonna be that person for me. But I love it about her. The other thing is, we'll be sitting at a restaurant, or we'll be checking out at Walmart, or we'll be at a store, Glick's. She did it at Glick's the other day. And commonly it's their nails. If it's a girl, a waitress, or the checker out person, the cashier.
You used to be one of those. You should know the term.
I should know the term. I'm sick. I actually feel like I have a fever, but we don't need to tell everybody that. She'll just be like, "I like your nails." And they'll be like, "Oh, thank you." And you can see like the smile come on and how it genuinely makes them happy. Or if she can tell someone sad, "I like your hair. I like your shirt. Your shoes are cute." Like, she just always finds those cute little things, or the things she likes, or even the things that maybe she doesn't truly love, but she knows will make the other person happy. She'll like highlight them for them and make them feel good about themselves.
And to watch the transformation in someone's face when she does it just makes my heart melt into a puddle. And I know that her first grade teacher called her Smiley, which was funny because that's her nickname from my dad.
We
It's
all have
always
nicknames.
been his nickname for her because she's just like her dad. She's constantly smiling all the time. So the fact that she's smiley, but she also wants to put smiles on everybody else's face. And like Haleigh said, it's been something she's done since she was very, very small.
Young.
So it's not like it was a taught thing. She just does it.
I'm gonna be honest, because if I'm in a bad mood, I'll hold the door open for somebody, but I'm not always the first to be like, "I like your hair, I like your nails." Like, I'm not as confident in saying that. 'Cause
I used to be.
I'm afraid that somebody's gonna take it the wrong way, and I don't want them to take it the wrong way. It's like that intrusive thought thing.
Yeah, that's where I was going with that. So when I was younger, I was really good about doing that all the time. And then intrusive thoughts came into my life and I'm like,
never mind.
I shell up and I don't say anything.
Yeah.
Which I need to be better about just doing it. You know, if I see something in somebody or somebody is beautiful or their hair is great or whatever, just tell them.
I'm too afraid, though, if I tell another female that they're beautiful, they're going to think something else is
That's
going
what I
on.
mean.
Because
These days are
Some
weird.
of y'all are crazy. Anyways.
No, this world we live in this day. This
But
day
some
and age
of
is
these
just
people
weird.
are crazy, too.
What is something surprising that you've learned about yourself?
That if I am not... I used to think I wasn't like this, but if I am not actively working on something for myself or working within something for myself, my internal self-worth goes really low. And I feel like I am the worst person ever. And why does anybody like me, love me, want to be around me? Which is probably something I need to work on. But also shows me that I need to prioritize me a little better in some aspects, in some situations, and not let myself and what I want and the goals that I have for myself so easily go.
That's a good answer. What's the most important lesson you feel like you've learned so far in life? Hard lesson.
Oh, people change. People change. all throughout life. That's not just one specific instance. But
I'd say in the past year, that's the hard lesson.
that's the hard lesson in the past year. And I change too. You change, and so does everybody. We all change. So that's not meant totally derogatory. But you're never going to figure everything out. You got to go with the flow. And even when it's really hard and you don't understand a lot, and you're a person, even if you're a person that wants to understand a lot, sometimes things change and people change.
What do you feel like is the biggest failure? Your biggest failure?
My biggest failure? Oh. Circle back to that. I just want to make sure I've got it all like lined out.
What are you most proud of?
In myself? Probably how easy I can go with the flow after something hard happens. Not easy maybe is the right word, but how
You can let it go.
I can just move. I can learn from it and just use it as a stepping stone, and not a stone I have to carry, but use it as a stepping stone and grow from it rather than fester in it. And then what was your previous question?
Biggest failure.
I would say my biggest failure is, I would say not telling. I don't know. That's hard. Probably not. I regret not telling some people how much they meant to me in certain seasons, whether that be friends or relationships or just family members, various people and friends that have came into my life. I think I'm very quick to just think that people know what I feel and what I mean and how I feel about them. But I never find the time, most of the time, to express those things. So I think that would be one of my biggest failures, is maybe biggest regrets is a better word.
Well, that was what I was going to say. Did you have any regrets? So that would kind of go hand in hand with that. Do you have anything that keeps you up at night? Anything that you worry about?
What God is doing with my life. That's what keeps me up at night.
The next step.
The next step. What's next? What does God want me to do next? Because I know I have had a really good last few years. That's come with a lot of hard things, a lot of awesome things, a lot of great people. And it's also come with a lot of hardship and
a lot of change, sudden change, a lot of love
change.
And a lot of joy and a lot of heartbreak.
A lot of that. All of, from one extreme to the opposite, in multiple different ways, and not all in one reason that most people are probably thinking. Like, I moved out and I moved in with my best friend an hour and a half away from home, and her and I had a great time down there, but we had some problems within our friendship that we had to mend within the last year, and some relationship things, and moved 9 hours away from home and moved back, and various job changes within the middle of all of that. Like, there was so much change, and I didn't really take time to process any of it. So it was all just piling and piling and piling and piling, which made it worse for me and the people that I was around. And it's probably another thing that keeps me up at night, is like, I wish I would have allowed myself to process all of that more. But yeah, just a lot.
So in saying all of that, what is one word you would use to sum up the last year, 2024? And I'll tell you mine. One word.
One word. Roller coaster.
Roller coaster. That's good.
Lots of highs, a lot of lows. Side note, I really think I was born to live like tropical. And I got to travel to a lot of really cool places this year. That was awesome with people that I loved. And, but I've also had a lot of hardship, but I've also had a lot of like, when I moved back home, I had to reflect really inward and fix a lot within me. So,
And you're learning and growing big time and making some changes that need to be made. And that's what life's about.
Job changes. We've had TV show. We've had racing changes. We've had a lot of changes.
Learning and growing and changing and lessons from everything. If you can't learn a lesson from everything you go through, then you need to open your eyes, because there's a lesson for everyone in every situation. You should always be looking for a way to better yourself and grow from your mistakes. Never be afraid to apologize for your mistakes and admit that you're human, and give grace to others so that you can get grace in return the way Jesus gives it to us. My one word I chose for 2024 is confusion.
That used to be my favorite word, by the way. I'd send her, I am confusion. And she'd be like, what is confusion?
You mean confused?
Confusion. Like, it's confusion.
So confusion. I have to remind myself that the enemy is the author of confusion. He's used a lot of people in our lives over this past year to create a lot of confusion, thwart some of God's plans, I feel like,
Divert things
from the way I think they were supposed to pan out. But God's got a plan and a will for every one of us and everything. And Romans 8:28 says, God works all things for good for those that love him. And we know that no matter what hardships we face or what challenges or struggles we face, that good will come out of it for those of us that believe. That's what I'm trying to hang on to. But 2024, especially the last half of it.
Wow.
That was hard. Sorry.
No, I was just saying, like, wow.
A lot of confusion.
Even the beginning. Confusion. But in more aspects than one. My heater just shut off. That means we've been doing this for 2 hours.
That's a long time. You might have to make this a part 1 and a part 2. That'd probably be good.
Probably.
But yeah.
I don't know. We learning, we growing. I'm learning, I'm growing.
I'm learning and growing every day.
Every one of us. And life is too short. Just apologize. Say sorry. I didn't mean it that way. Sorry you took it that way, player. It channeled my
Inner gangsta?
No, inner Brennan.
Oh, Brennan. Quit being weird. We'll have to text him and tell him to watch it.
Quit being weird. I'll just send him the snippet. He's not going to watch the whole thing.
Yeah, no.
He's a boy. 18, is he 17?
I think he's 18.
An 18-year-old boy at that. So, yeah, he's not going to watch all of this. But needless to say, what else you got? Is that it?
That's all I got. I mean, I think you told me to circle back to a few.
You did circle back to him, like my most embarrassing memory.
Did it just go off again?
No, that was the air. The air's been running the heat.
I think that's all I got for you.
That's all you got. Did I answer all your questions the way you liked? You liked it?
I think so.
Okay.
Did we get personal? That's what you asked me.
We got a lot more personal than I think we did with you.
Oh, yeah.
A lot more personal. Hopefully these people don't think I'm weird.
Listen, I think that this is what this is all about, and we're all a little weird, and we all have our issues, and none of us are perfect. Those that act like they are,
Can I touch
sorry
on one
about you.
thing? The only thing I think that I didn't mention in this video is a lot of people think that I'm this extremely confident person, and I am really not. And I think a lot of people are like that. Confidence is a front. And you usually can't judge somebody off of the front or the cover, like a book. You can't judge a book by its cover. You can't judge someone by the front that they put on. You've got to open them up a little bit to understand who they are. I don't want people to think I'm like I don't know. I've just seen some comments sometimes that I'm like, if they really knew me,
They wouldn't
They comment that. They wouldn't say that.
But I think that speaks to the fact that, yes, you're beautiful, and yes, you're talented, and yes, you're really good at a lot of things, but that kind of keeps you humble in a way, keeps you from having a big head, and it keeps you from thinking that you're better than other people when you're not as confident. But yes, you definitely need to work on your confidence, because you have no reason to not be confident.
This is true. This is something I have been working on. It's one of the things I had to reflect innerly, into my inner self on, and be like, why did I do that? Why did I say that? Why did I, blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
Because you love hard, and I think that, my struggle was fear, but a lot of that is your fear of losing something you loved so much, and somebody you loved so much, created some anxieties, which created some issues, but there were some other issues that created issues.
It all fed off of each other.
They all kind of fed off of each other, but you're 19, 20, 21. You're a baby. You're a kid.
Even though you don't, when you turn 18, you feel like you are top dog.
Listen,
you feel like you are you're there. You're an adult.
I'm 40. I turned 40 this year, and I'm still learning and growing every day. And there's something new I learn all the time. And if you don't think that way, you're going backwards.
Yeah.
You're going backwards.
Yeah. I think that's probably something that we could have a whole podcast on, is when you turn 18, you think you know it all. But the last few years of my life, I have more than ever reflected back and been like, damn.
But I also want to remind you
some things.
I want to remind you that nothing that you've gone through in the past 3 years is out of the ordinary for anybody of your age. In any aspect, whether it's work or relationships or friendships or whatever, it's all normal. It happens to almost all of us.
We're kind of put on a spotlight. Let me rephrase that. We've chose to put ourselves out in the public, which has made it a little harder to go through some of the things that we've gone through and process some of the things that we've gone through. Makes it.
And I'm going to touch on that for a minute, because social media is a good thing. I mean, obviously social media is going to allow this to get out to people to watch. But social media is a bear in itself, in the fact that so much is misinterpreted and misconstrued. For example, you can post a post and it can trigger somebody far away from you
do something
to say or do something, or to internalize something you said when it had zero to do with them, or zero to do with anything about them or the situation that they think it's about, and then just make rash decisions based off of that. Off your feelings and emotions.
Feelings are fleeting. Very fleeting.
So social media can, like you said, paint a picture of everybody's life is perfect, but it can also create a lot of miscommunication. We have more means to communicate now than we ever have in the history of ever,
which is great.
It's great, but there's so much miscommunication because of it.
You can't read physical cues when
you're
somebody
reading something on a
post
phone
online,
right?
Or puts a video out online, but you can't. There's a picture over the video, and their voiceover is behind it,
right?
So you can't read the physical cues of the person or whatever it is.
And another thing about that is, like you said, feelings, thoughts, emotions. Whenever we read something, whether it's a text message somebody sent you, or it's a post on Facebook, or a meme or a meme, however you say that people share.
A meme.
Don't make fun of me. I'm old.
It's like the other day I saw a video of somebody saying Minnesota. I started cackling, and I'm sorry.
You just totally sidetracked me. When somebody posts something and you read it, you're reading it from whatever state,
point of view
or perception you are currently sitting in. So if you're angry about your dog making a huge mess in your living room today.
Do not reply to the text.
Well, you're reading a message from someone and you're still sitting in anger. Well, you're reading it angrily. So that person's not sending you a message out of anger and there's no anger in their tone, but you're perceiving it that way because you're sitting in anger or you're sitting in sadness or you're sitting in whatever emotion it is, and you're reading something based on that perception.
Probably wait 30 minutes before you reply, or maybe longer if you're a hothead.
Probably longer, you know.
But yeah, take a minute, pause.
Whatever we're going through in life is what we see things as. So remember that when you feel some sort of way about something or someone, may not have anything to do with them and a whole lot to do with you.
Yep.
And that's for all of us.
Yep.
It's for all of
everyone. I've done it a lot. You've done it a lot. Other people have done it a lot. We've all done it.
Another one of those things you learn from. The more you know, the more you grow.
Yep. The more you pause next time, you're like, wait a minute. I probably should rethink what I'm about to do.
I'd say that's one of the biggest lessons for me the past 6 months is reaction. You said that you were a very reactive person. I'm also a very reactive person, and not always in a bad way.
No,
I'm just, you know, like, let's deal with this now and fix it. Let's fix it. But when somebody pushes a button and their intention is to get a reaction, 90% of the time they're going to get a reaction out of me.
You're going to get what you wanted.
And I'm learning over the last 6 months, it's better to not react to some of those things.
For example, like when we were talking about the work experience earlier, I kept coming home to my mom and I was like, she is about to get it.
She's about to lay the elbow down.
If you don't know anything about me, you just need to know I got a 1-2. And when I'm real mad, I'm like, no, I'm just kidding.
No,
it's
just
funny.
all jokes.
It's all jokes. I wouldn't actually hurt anybody unless they got me. They hurt somebody that I loved, but she was about to get some not so nice words said to her the next time she did it. And I kept telling my mom, I was like, I don't know if God is trying to test me with these people and say, Haleigh, you need to just calm down and react kindly and just show grace. Or if he wants me to stand up for myself, because past situations, previous situations, I didn't stand up for myself well enough. You know what?
Which I'm proud of you and the way you handled that, by the way. I don't know that I've told you that, but I know that we joke around about it and I say, well, I would have said this or I would have done that and blah, blah, blah. But I'm proud of you for the way you handled that. Nothing you said or did would have changed the outcome, I don't believe. So I'm proud of you for that.
But it's the same situation with the girl at work. I was like, she's going to get it. But I never gave it to her, never told her. And I never had to, because we kind of came to it. We came to a mutual understanding and now we're good. We talked about it. We said, let's fix it. We fixed it. Without anybody blowing up, we both came into work one day calm and we were fine.
And that makes you adults.
Yep.
Makes you grown, mature adults.
Yep. We let it calm down and we both came to each other. We were like, listen, before you get what I'm mad about at home and what you're mad about at home, you give that to me. Like, let's fix it. Cause I don't want to lash out on you like that. So let's just nip it in the bud.
And you did.
Yep. And we did. So
I'd say that was a good podcast.
I say it was good. We need like an outro for this thing.
We do. You need to make one of those.
A button I can click. Bam. Like
Fireworks.
Fireworks. Hold on. Here's an idea. What if I get like those streamers?
We like shake them.
I wish people could see this side of me more often because I
do too. I know that
I got a lot of this in me, like a lot of funny, quirky ideas and a lot of funny, quirky sayings, and I just make her roll on the floor sometimes.
I wouldn't go that far. You definitely make me laugh.
Don't be humble right now. Don't lie. You're about to roll on the floor right now.
No.
Or like earlier when I said that my most embarrassing moment was when I had the stomach flu. You're pretty close.
I was thinking of something else. That's why I was laughing so hard. But yeah, I'm glad to see that side of you back.
It was gone for a while.
It was gone for a while, and I remember asking you
Where it went.
where
why.
it went and why, and then I had my answer. So
Yep.
we're glad to see it back.
I'm back, bitches.
I don't think you can say that. I know this is your podcast, but I don't think you can say
It's
that.
my podcast.
Oh, nobody's ever listening to this.
I beg to differ. There are probably going to be 20 comments about how that was great. It was great.
All right.
All right, that's it.
Hit your make-believe button.